What's up, folks? I'm Private Hudson and this is Jalopy. Jalopy was a game that I was interested in ever since it first launched in early access. Despite wanting to jump in immediately, after seeing video after video of just how buggy and barely playable it was, I actually waited until the game was finished before buying it. 2 years later, the game is considered complete, and I can definitely tell you that it was not worth the wait. This is definitely one sloppy jalopy. Jalopy takes place at the end of the Cold War. Your uncle gets a shitty car together and basically forces you to drive him on a road trip from Berlin to Istanbul. To get there, you must go through Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Yugoslavia, and Bulgaria, while making sure you have enough money to pay for hotel rooms and keep your shitty car from falling apart. All the while your uncle rambles on about history and the current political climate. If this sounds boring, well, that's because it is. However, I did not expect to find it boring. I'm actually a huge fan of Euro Truck Simulator 2. Driving around through the European countryside with realistic handling, depending on what components are in my truck as well as what cargo I'm carrying, I just found it to be extremely relaxing. I loved taking on long-distance jobs, and I loved spending the cash rewards towards upgrading my truck, my garage, and my company further. Jalopy, on the other hand, isn't relaxing. It's completely frustrating, not because the game is actually challenging, but because it's a bug-ridden disaster. Just getting the game to start is an exercise in frustration. Now, I have a triple monitor setup. My leftmost monitor is currently in portrait mode. Jalopy, being the shitty game that it is, never likes to save your settings, and whenever I launch the game, it always launches on my leftmost monitor, and it launches the game in portrait mode. I have to press Alt-Enter a bunch of times until it finally gets on my main center display. Then I have to go to the options menu, change it to make my center monitor the primary monitor, and after I do this, I go to load my game, and it always crashes. At least the first time that I launch it. The first time that I ever launched Jalopy, it always crashes after I do this step. The second time I launch it, I still have to go through the same monitor switching bullshit again, but at least this time around I can finally load my save game. Now you might be thinking, just disable the first monitor. Well, I did that, but instead of launching on my primary center monitor, it launched on the right third monitor and fucking crashed anyway. Basically, to play this game without having it crash at launch is to disable all my monitors except for like my fucking middle one. It's ridiculous. And even going through all that, the game is still a buggy piece of shit. Here in this clip, I ended up running out of fuel, and the game just flat out crashed. And I relaunched the game, and I'm back in the main menu. The way that Jalopy works is that it only saves once you reach a new city and sleep in the motel. So all the progress that I made, including buying items, car upgrades, all that stuff, it just got erased. Brilliant. Uncle also likes to bug out frequently by going fucking Hulk smash into the car that he fucking built. And for a game where fuel management is a priority, it sure likes to fuck you over by preventing it from refueling your extra fuel canisters from time to time. Alright, so let's pretend that Jalopy isn't full of these bugs. Let's just hypothetically imagine that we live in a world where this game was released in a playable state. Let's just fucking imagine. Alright? Well, it still wouldn't be any fun because there's barely anything to do in this game. So you start in Berlin, and as you leave, you are given an option of 3 procedurally generated routes to pick from. Each one may have different weather and road conditions, lengths, and possible stops along the way, such as a gas station or a scrapyard. The worse the weather or road conditions are, the higher chance that you'll find better loot along the way. Yet, Jalopy is inspired by roguelites. As you're driving down the road, you'll find crates. Ones with tape can just be opened, but ones with padlocks require a crowbar. Inside, you'll find items that can be sold at shops and gas stations. Who drops this stuff? No one knows, and it's never explained. Also, who the fuck in their right mind just picks up packs of meat that's just laying on the goddamn road. Anyway, moving on. These items that you pick up, they have different prices depending on what city you're in. For instance, one place can have an abundance of coffee beans while another place lacks it. And you can drive back and forth between these two places, buying low and selling high to make a profit. If you're a fucking masochist and have nothing better to do, to be honest, the only stuff that has actual real value is stuff like medicine and alcohol. Sometimes cigarettes too. Yarn, coffee beans, and sausages are universally worthless. One of the most unintentionally hilarious things about Jalopy is that each location may consider some of these items to be contraband, and you can get fined for importing it. Like, seriously, Hungary has banned textiles, Yugoslavia has banned medicine. Do they want their population to just die off from illness? Who the fuck thought of this? This is such a laughably bad game mechanic. Aside from picking up these random boxes off the road, the only other two things that you can encounter are broken cars and scrapyards. Broken cars may have loot as well as recoverable car parts. Scrapyards have broken cars blocking the entrance. You fix it, it solves the puzzle, gives you access inside where you can also find broken car parts. These parts can be either sold, or if they're better than your current ones, you can repair them and then you can just use them to upgrade your own car. The storage in your Leica's trunk is limited, so you won't have space for everything. You can upgrade your storage by getting an extra rack on top of your car's roof. And that's kind of the entire game, really. Aside from just driving around trying to pick up valuables and trying to make sure you have enough room for valuables, you avoid the hazards on the road and you just keep driving until your route is complete and you reach your next destination. There you can stop by the store to sell and buy stuff, which is such an extremely tedious process. You need to carry these baskets, load them up with junk from your trunk, get your wallet out of the dashboard, then take everything to the counter and then check out. Don't forget to fuel up your car, repair the damaged parts, replace broken wheels, and so on and so forth. This process by itself, it takes me 20 minutes. Every time I reach a new city and go through this buying, selling, repairing thing, it takes 20 real-time minutes. It's so fucking tedious. You can also wash your car, which is even more fucking laborious, as the sponge can only be used 3 times, and then you have to clean it 3 times in the bucket before you can use it again. To make matters worse, the controls are clunky as hell, as you need to be mousing over the one specific area when you're clicking, otherwise you'll misclick or you won't click it, or you'll exit the car instead of fucking pulling down the window, and so on and so forth. And it's even more frustrating when you're picking up additional items, which really screws up the order that you're already holding the items in. After you're done with the market, you can stop by the car upgrade shop and then finish off the night at the motel. There your uncle passes out, which conveniently causes his briefcase to open. This is where Jalopy's story is told. At each motel, his briefcase reveals another document, which explains why he wants to travel all the way to Istanbul. It's not very well told, but I won't spoil it for you just in case you care. Then you wake up in the morning, get back in your car, pick another route, and the tedious boredom resumes. The only challenge that Jalopy has is either getting fucked by having the game crash to the desktop, or getting fucked by the RNG. The only way you can really fail in Jalopy is if you're unlucky and you don't find any good items while driving, or if your car breaks down. But fret not, as you can simply restart at the beginning back in Berlin while keeping all of your current items in cache. Or you can just get lucky and find a crate with 6 bottles of wine and be set. Once you reach Turkey, the story ends, but the game doesn't. From there, you can travel wherever the game allows you to, which means all the fucking places you just came from, while continuing to make money by flipping items from one location to another and finding boxes on the road some more, and continuing to upgrade your car to your heart's desire. Or you can do the rational thing and turn the fucking game off. Getting to Turkey took me about 5 hours, and to be honest, I'm surprised I lasted for that long. I felt like quitting once I got to Yugoslavia for the second time, as I did have to restart back at the original garage once. Jalopy is just so primitive and boring. Everything is so primitive. The graphics remind me of early 3D games for like the Atari Jaguar. Games like Iron Soldier and Cybermorph, back when 3D was nothing but untextured polygons. And the sound design is nerve-grating, especially when it rains, as the rain is nothing more but a looping sound file that wasn't even looped properly. Because you can hear when the rain ends, and then there's a 2-second gap of silence, and then it starts playing from the beginning again. The thing that makes the least amount of sense is why does this game run like shit? I'm playing this on a GTX 1070 and this game's frame rate is all over the place. During the daytime, my frame rate can be as high as 120, but the second it gets dark, it cripples down to 30 FPS. I get better consistency playing Kingdom Come on Ultra settings. When I first saw Jalopy in early access, I saw a game with huge potential. A road trip across Cold War Europe, while maintaining a shitty car was something unique and exciting. It was something different, but all that the developers did since then was just add new locations and add a story, and not a particularly good one. All these mechanics pretty much existed when the game launched in early access. Nothing fundamentally new was actually added. There are no NPCs aside from shopkeepers. And aside from the roads in Germany and Turkey, you never come across any other drivers. There's nothing in the game to do aside from drive around and open up boxes that you find on the ground. It feels so lifeless and barren. The only positive thing that I can say about Jalopy is that the driving actually feels good. You can definitely feel the difference in driving depending on what parts you have, the weather conditions, the road conditions, as well as the weight of your cargo, but when the roads are empty and barren and the only hazards are fucking dirt and potholes and you can't even play the game with a steering wheel, what's the point? It leaves the driving to be as dull as all the other elements of the game. It's really sad and unfortunate. I had high hopes for this. I was really looking forward to play this. The developers certainly did one thing right, and that's by naming this game Jalopy, because that word sums up this game perfectly.